Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk. In this one, we're here at our Istanbul office with Cameron Deggin. Cameron, welcome.
Hello there, welcome.
Cameron, something very interesting is going to happen today at our Straight Talk.
Oh.
Okay? I'll be asking you questions. I'll be trying to corner you from all angles.
So you'll be the skeptic?
Yes.
All right. And who am I?
You are the biased real estate agent whose interest is to only make money.
All right.
And then my interest is sort of like try to protect my money as much as possible.
So hold on.
Then again, how does that work? I don't know.
So I am the biased real estate agent with only one target aim, which is to make money and to sell Turkish real estate to you.
Yes.
So I will try and sell Turkish real estate to you at any cost.
Yes.
Pretty much, I'll say and do anything to sell Turkish real estate to you.
Yes.
But you are the smart skeptic who isn't about to take everything I say as the truth. You are savvy and you think that you know it all, or at least you want to know it all. And then so you're trying to corner me. You're trying to basically get the truth out of me because I'm this deceitful real estate agent, like we all are.
Who's there to make a quick buck.
Who's there to make a quick buck.
Yes.
And then you are, I don't know,
I'm a legend in my own mind.
You're a legend in your own mind.
Yes.
Plus, you're a skeptic, and you're going to corner me.
My first question to you. I've been looking at the Turkish real estate market. The prices are going up significantly. Well, I've been hearing that the price of everything in the world, especially after the COVID, has been going up. But its reflection on the Turkish real estate is very, very visible. In the past year and a half, the prices have really gone up. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to invest in Turkey right now as of 2022. Is there a bubble, or is this bubble about to burst, or is this price growth sustainable? Because I don't want to get caught at wrong.
So basically what you're saying is that prices in Turkish real estate, particularly in Istanbul, have risen sharply over the past year or two. And that kind of makes you think that there might be a bubble about to burst.
Yes.
So clearly, you don't want to come into the market before the bubble bursts.
Yes.
So, and the reason that you feel, Mr. Skeptic, that there is a bubble is because prices have risen rather sharply in the last 2 years.
Speedily, yeah.
Okay. Now, prices fall, people complain.
Okay.
Prices go up, people complain, or they are concerned. So they're concerned when prices fall. They're concerned when prices rise. There is no satisfying you, is there? So what should prices do? Because a price will either go down or go up. A price will hardly ever stay where it is year after year after year. So if they go down, bad news. If they go up, potential bad news. So I don't understand. So shouldn't prices be going up?
Yes, prices should be going up.
Okay.
But when I see what used to sell for $150,000 2 years ago, selling for $250,000 today, I am concerned because I think, okay, is there such a purchasing power by the Turkish public to be able to keep up with the growth? It's going up so much. So I'm concerned for the 98% of the market. And if that biggest chunk of the Turkish market, which is the domestic market, if it's not functioning well, then I will be going into something that's dysfunctional.
All right. Since this morning, you said to me that today's episode is going to be about, is there a bubble in Turkish real estate?
Yes.
I actually did some research, and I scribbled a few things, as you can see. Scribbles.
Okay.
Scribbles. Okay. According to my scribbles, and hey, I'm not gonna sit and say that, you know, these scribbles are the ultimate truth. Who knows what the ultimate truth is? But I obtained my data from some credible sources, mainly government statistics of the 3 countries I'm going to talk about. And they are, as far as I can see, as reputable sources as possible. Plus, they kind of, at least for the London market, which I shall cover, I shall draw a simile, at least for the London market, they're in full support of what I already knew. So I'm looking at New York, the metropolitan area, not the state, metropolitan area, including, of course, New York City, London, and Istanbul. And I'm comparing these 3 cities.
Go
Okay?
ahead.
Now, according to my comparison, and I tell you what I looked at. I looked at the populations of these cities. I looked at the average take-home pay of an average person living in those cities. Take-home pay meaning either salary or business income after taxes, what the guy takes home. And I also looked at the average property prices in these cities. That's like take all the properties for sale, put them in a bucket, and take the average. You know, these are very average figures. Okay? Now, according to this, the average take-home pay, let's say the average salary in New York, would take 19.4 years to pay for the average property in New York. The same figure in London is 22.7 years, which means the average salary, the average take-home pay in London would pay for the average property in London in 22.7 years. In Istanbul, the average take-home pay will take 12.5 years to pay for the average property in Istanbul. So New York, almost 20 years, London, 23 years, Istanbul, less than 13 years. So these figures alone will tell me that the local people of Istanbul are at least 50% more likely to be able to purchase a property than local people of New York and London. In other words, for the average man in the street in Istanbul, purchasing their first home or purchasing a property is more accessible than for the average man in London and in New York. Now, the populations of these cities are quite comparable too. New York metropolitan area is 23 million. London is 15 million metropolitan area. And Istanbul is 17, 18 million people. So they're kind of comparable.
They're all big cities.
They're all big cities. Now, here's another interesting statistic. The mean age, the average age in New York is 37. The average age in London is 40. The average age in Istanbul is 31. Now, what does that tell you? Well, one thing it tells me is that Istanbul is likely to have more demand per head, if we could correlate demand for real estate as demand per head. Istanbul would have more demand per head for real estate than New York and London, because the population is younger, meaning there'll be more marriages, there'll be more people moving out either to their matrimonial homes or moving out of parental homes to live on their own. It's a younger population. It's a more upwardly mobile population. So that in itself means that there is likely to be higher domestic demand in Istanbul compared to London and New York. Another thing, I looked at supply in these cities. Very interesting. This actually took me a lot of time to research. I looked at supply of housing. In other words, properties for sale at any point in time, and how quickly that supply can meet the average demand in the city. Do you know what? Istanbul's supply relative to demand is very low. London's supply relative to demand is between low to medium. New York's supply relative to demand is again between low to medium. Even on the supply side, Istanbul has got more pressure. In other words, there's less supply in Istanbul. Right now, this is the statistics I'm quoting are from April 2022, so they're as recent as they get. Now, price increases, very interesting. Over the past 12 months, in fact, the figures I looked at are March 2021 to March 2022. And again, for New York, London, Istanbul, price increase in hard currency terms. In New York, overall, average price increase of real estate, 7%. In London, 8%. In Istanbul, once you eliminate the effects of Turkish lira depreciation against, say, US dollar, so I eliminated the effect of that, we are left with a 40% price increase.
That's huge.
Huge. Which means that there is a 40% price increase as opposed to just under 10% in New York and London. In Istanbul, there's a 40% price increase in the preceding 12 months. But despite that, the demand versus supply applies a very strong pressure on the market, which means there's a lot more demand than supply. In addition to that, the number of years that the average salary in Istanbul needs to pay for the average property in Istanbul is a lot less than in New York and London. Almost half of London. London was 23 years. Istanbul is 12.5 years. Almost half. So what I'm saying is, when I look at these, I don't see a bubble in Istanbul. If there is a bubble in Istanbul, then according to my statistics, and I'm an accountant, so for me it's figures, according to my figures here, New York and London should have busted open 10 times by now. If these figures indicate or point to a bubble, then this bubble should have burst 10 times by now in London and New York. And I'm not saying it hasn't, it hasn't, we know. I'm not saying it won't. But what I'm saying is that I don't see an overly cautious picture when I look at Istanbul and when I compare it to London and New York. And also, there are a few other factors I'd like to talk about in terms of what really is happening in the Istanbul real estate market, which these statistics or the figures I gave are very easy for anybody.
Yeah, it would take.
So actually go online and to pick up from some credible sources. They can put this chart together themselves. But there are a few other factors that you need to have some insider information and knowledge, which I'd like to cover. But since you actually popped the question of a bubble, I'd like to have your thoughts on what I just said.
Okay. My thought is this. I mean, as good as the data
what is
sounds.
Your thought?
No,
because he didn't realize I was going to come prepared. You actually thought I'm going to come here and sit down, and you're a fairly intelligent guy.
Yeah.
I have to admit. So, and sit in front of you unprepared.
Well, I thought
and talk
you would
out of thin air.
I thought that's what you would do.
No, all right.
But anyway, I mean, you brought forth a very valuable data,
There you go.
and it makes us
You can have a
see
look.
and understand. Okay, thank you very much.
That's all right.
So it makes us see and understand certain things. Yes, it is. Istanbul is more accessible. Istanbul property market still today is more accessible to the average person than London or New York is. But you're comparing London, New York, and Istanbul.
So?
Man, when I look at London Underground, the tube, you call it the tube?
The tube, yes.
Okay, when I look at the tube.
We call it the tube. Because it is a tube.
I see a big spider net that's encompassing all the suburbs and the central areas and furthest tube station away from me is 5 minutes walk and everything. A city that's flat and the public transportation is good and you can reach from everywhere. And everyone takes the tube, right? Whether you're a millionaire or a billionaire, you take the tube. New York, same story.
If you're not careful, you're about to defeat your own case.
Hold on.
You are giving me a lot of ammunition for what I was about to say next, which you have no idea about.
Then wait, lock and loaded.
Go on then.
Okay.
Oh, so you're going to load the gun.
So you should be
just
loading the
it
gun.
now.
You
So
should be
this is
loading
like
the gun.
halfway through. All right then.
And when you look at
There you
Istanbul,
go.
how many metro lines we have? 5, 6,
I have
7?
no idea.
Okay. When you look at the public transportation, it isn't as good as those places.
You're absolutely right.
People who are working in central Istanbul, they have to live close to central Istanbul. Otherwise, they need to travel 2 hours.
You're absolutely right.
2 hours go, 2 hours come back, 3-4 hours on the way. It's not like London.
Yeah.
And
We
when you
like
look
to
at
take our
these
time.
cities, also, they're major world capitals. They're financial centers. They're financial hubs. And these are cities that are pulling in demand from all corners of the world. London is the safest city as far as investment is concerned. If I have $1, if I put that $1 in London, I know whatever happens, that $1 is going to stay as a dollar. Maybe it's not going to go up that much, but it's going to stay as it is. My capital will be preserved.
It may even go up.
It may or may not. But
London is a safe bet.
Istanbul is not a financial hub.
No.
It's not in the same league
No.
as these cities.
No.
It's an uncertain economy.
True.
It's a currency that's fluctuating all the time. That's devaluing. 50% devaluation for Turkish lira is nothing.
We're used to it.
It's a country where you have an inflation of what, 50%?
No, actually 79%.
Okay, 79%. There you go.
Yes. Well, on some products anyway.
And when you look at how industrialized your country is compared to US and UK, you have ages. The difference is huge. So
That's debatable. Go on.
okay, that's debatable.
That's debatable.
So when you say that these cities are this inaccessible and Istanbul is still accessible, what I'm popping the question that I'm popping in my mind right now is that how long do we need to wait until Istanbul gets to that level? And that level is God knows how long.
That's a very, very good analysis you've done.
Okay.
So basically, to recap what you just said, what you're saying is you're comparing Istanbul to London and New York. These are two of the financial and business hubs of the world. And what you're saying is Istanbul has a long way to go,
Yeah.
if ever it catches up, which is a massive question mark. You're right. And if we were having this discussion, this debate, in the mid-80s, or late 80s even, 30 years ago, do you know what? You would be absolutely correct. You would be absolutely correct. But this is the 21st century, and this is 2022. A massively different ball game to the late 80s. People's mentalities are very different. In the late 80s, you didn't have internet. You didn't have online business. You didn't have even an expression called virtual reality, never mind metaverse. Okay? Those things were unheard of. Okay? It was a different world. People's expectations were different. Istanbul was a completely different place. Was primitive, in fact.
Yes.
London was a completely different place. New York was a different place. Now, today, the way people look at the world, their expectations from the city they live in, from the country they wish to raise their children in, they would like to develop their next generations in, are different. People no longer, and this is people from all walks of life, from all belief systems, from all races, they no longer look at places like London and New York as all the roads are paved with gold. These are the places we need to be. There's nowhere else to go. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. These cities you mentioned, they have reached a level of maturity. Just like you said, the underground of London. Open the map, There isn't even a centimeter on the map to put another tube, as you put it,
Yeah.
another line. It's all done. The entire London is dug. The underground system connects each and every dot with each and every other dot in that city. There isn't any more places or dots to put. Now, the same thing applies to many other facets of the life of that city. Now, everything in life is in circles. Everything in life is in circles. Things grow, they come to a maturity, then they get replaced. If you look at human history of the past 10,000 years, even further beyond, you will see the cycles all over and over again. What I'm trying to say is, and if you observe carefully, how people's cultures are changing, how the money flows are changing, how we do business, how we educate our children, how we live our lives are changing. And with the internet, that change only got accelerated with a magnitude of 1,000. The next 10 years, the next 20 years are going to be very different. There's a shift of balance. There's a shift of desirability in these cities. The cities that have matured, places like New York and London, the sheer fact of this maturity, the sheer fact of people over the past so many years flocking to those cities, making those cities what they are today, has got another side of the coin too. And that other side of the coin are the negative sides that people who live in those cities, who 30, 40 years ago would have aspired to go to those cities at any cost, are seeing today. And they're looking elsewhere. They're looking at different ways of life. Now, these are the cycles I'm talking about. Istanbul, as I always say, is a city that connects east to west, west to east. It's a city that sits right above the continent of Africa, squashed and sandwiched in between the European continent, the African continent, and Asia. It's almost the center of the world. And the way Istanbul is changing over the last 5 to 10 years, I have witnessed since I've been living here for 7 years now, is incredible. The city is becoming increasingly multicultural. The city is embracing many, many different walks of life, people from many, many different countries. The people who live in this city, their attitudes are changing. They are embracing the whole world. They're no longer a homogeneous society. They are becoming, very fast becoming, men of the world, women of the world, so to speak. So what I'm saying is, what you may have perceived as a negative, that Istanbul doesn't really have all those dotted connections of the tube or the metro system, Istanbul may not necessarily have the best infrastructure. Istanbul may not even necessarily have what is termed as the best business climate, although, in fact, Istanbul is pretty high up on that, but it doesn't compare to the almost bureaucracy-less Scandinavian countries or low corruption Western economy. Istanbul is still a little bit higher on the corruption index, bureaucracy index, which makes business a little bit more difficult. Despite all those, in fact, because of those, Istanbul is going to grow.
Okay, I understand all that. You're saying Istanbul is growing, it's on the rise, its aim is to catch up, if not surpass, those cities such as London, New York, and everything. But what evidence do you have to back up this claim? Because any city that's not as developed as those cities are now is subject to, faster growth than those cities, right? So what do you have to show me?
It's actually your job to show me what's happening statistically.
Abicim, I am the client here.
In other words, well, hold on. I'm throwing the ball to the client. You actually should be doing your homework, and you are the one who should be looking at what the size of Istanbul Underground was, say, 7 years ago, and what it is today. And you are the one who should be realizing, once you've done that study, that in the last 7 years, the Istanbul Underground has grown probably 10 times in terms of the kilometers it covers. So with that projection, it means over the next 10 years, Istanbul may very well end up with an underground. I hope it doesn't. That is larger in terms of area covered than London Underground, which I believe is the world's largest. However, do you know what? I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you something else. Because I am the kind of guy who I feel the way I do things. I feel things rather than rationally look at things, okay? Although I'm an accountant, so my training is numbers and
How did that
rational.
happen?
But I don't know. But I kind of feel the world. And I tell you what I feel. And I'm going to bring it close to home so you will understand exactly what I mean. Every day we have at least 10 clients who come to the office. These are all foreign nationals. From India, from Pakistan, from United States, from Germany, from England, from Australia, from the Middle East. They are from all walks of life, all races, all beliefs, okay? Do you realize one thing in common with all of them who come into this office? Most of them come straight here when they see this.
Yeah.
They realize, ooh, you guys have your straight talks actually in the middle of your office.
No, you guys are real.
You guys are real.
Yeah.
And then they walk further, they see me there, and then you float about most of the time because you hardly ever do any work. So
Right.
you're floating about all the time. So do you realize one thing in common with all of them? Or are you a little bit too young to feel?
I think
Look,
I'm too young to understand.
they're all excited. They're all excited. They're all excited and optimistic. Not because they think they're going to earn a lot of money by investing here, but they're all excited and optimistic, some overjoyed to be here and to be doing something in here, in Turkey, in Istanbul to start with, to be part of this, to have a place that they call home or investment. Why? Now, you got to understand this. Go out to Nişantaşı, go out to Bomonti, go out to Kadıköy. Last week, I was at Anadolu Hisarı, a place I hadn't discovered before. What an amazing spot. Oh, my God. I looked at the Bosphorus from Anadolu Hisarı, from this woodland I was in, with a tea garden. Oh, my God. I said, this has to be the most idyllic city on the face of earth. And you know what? When you come down and sit at a restaurant at a tea garden and you look at people, they are happy. They're enjoying. Do you not realize that? Go to Nişantaşı, sit down. This morning I was having breakfast. People are coming in and out. A lot of English was spoken. A lot. 8 o'clock in the morning. A lot of English is spoken. And then a lot of Turks started coming in. Turks are, they wake up a bit later.
Okay.
Clearly. Okay?
Okay.
So, but they're all happy. They're all enjoying themselves. Now, go to London, New York. I can assure you that level of optimism, that level of excitement of starting something new, that level of joy, you're not going to see it in people. What you're going to see is work, routine. I'm a little pissed off. I wish I was somewhere else. I'm telling you, Alaattin. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. I'm not even saying one is good, one is bad. I'm just making an observation. Now, as I always say, a river will flow to the sea, not turn around and go up mountain. River will flow to the sea. So follow the excitement, the joy, the happiness, the anticipation that people have. Particularly nowadays, people coming from outside Turkey. Follow it. Because the energy will follow it. This is what I'm saying. Now, for the first time in many, many years that I've been coming and going to Turkey, 30, 35 years now, I see something, and I've been seeing it for about 4 or 5 years now, the last 4 or 5 years, but lately more so. I see something that means this place is about to happen big time. It's becoming a focal point of energy.
Let me counter you on that one.
Go on now.
You said people are happy.
Yeah.
You say things are happening.
Yeah.
People are joyful and everything. How are people happy, especially young people, when you have 70-something% inflation in a country, when their earnings are getting less and less and less every single day, their purchasing power is going down? Young people, how are these people happy? Do
Well,
you think these
okay.
people too are happy? Because when I look at the news and how Turkey is portrayed, this is what I see. I see this much inflation, that much inflation. I see a picture of Erdogan shouting, and I see Turkey as this, it's just this country where it is, really depressed and this and that.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely not the case. And
but this is what I see.
Hold on. Yeah, you might see that, but anyone with zero knowledge of Turkey, all they need to do is spend one day in this country, and they will immediately realize that people are not depressed here. This is not some oppressive Eastern Bloc or communist-style regime here. This is a very open, very joyful kind of society, in fact. Now you're talking about inflation and the purchasing power of people, etc. Yes, unfortunately, not just in Turkey, in the entire world, the difference and the gap between those who have and those who don't have is getting bigger and bigger. Turkey is not immune, and Turkey is not the only country where this is happening. It's happening all over the world. In fact, this gap is widening more so in the developed world, in the Western world, than in countries like Turkey. It's just that in countries like Turkey, it is expected, but in the Western economies, it is unexpected. And this is what is actually causing a lot of unrest in the Western economies these days. You see a lot of strikes, a lot of protests, etc., that we didn't see before. And there are many more examples that I'm pretty sure that our audience listening to this now, they will understand. They just too will understand what I'm talking about. So what I'm trying to say is, here in Turkey, first of all, the statistics that you see from the government, the GDP, the annual GDP, the income per head, all those, you can just take them and put them in the bin. Unfortunately, or fortunately, but I think it's unfortunately, the unrecorded, look, I'm not going to color code it, I'm going to say the unrecorded economy in Turkey is probably 3 times as big as the recorded economy. So those figures that you see.
So you're saying Turkey's GDP is not 900 billion?
Turkey's GDP is probably 3 times that in real terms. 3 times that. Because there's so much unrecorded economy. So much. You see it in all facets. Now, there are reasons for this. We're not going to go into. This is not within the realm of our straight talk, at least today's episode. But this is the case. So if you look at the figures, published figures, you will get a very, very, very wrong image of Turkish economy. And a lot of people who live here, okay, and who engaged in business here, they know this just too well. They're aware of this. The government is aware of this. So, every passing year, they're tweaking and they're changing the tax regulations in order to try and, sniff out, let's say, the real economy. Okay? You must have noticed that the tax regime is constantly changing here. So when you look at the reality, then all of a sudden you have a different picture.
So you're saying that the Turkey you see when you go on Wikipedia and look at
Forget it.
population, GDP, this, that, you
Forget
think,
it.
oh, this big of a country, how is it less than $1 trillion?
Forget it.
Then you come to Turkey, then you actually see the things, you're like, okay, this is at least $2-3 trillion economy, easy.
Of course.
Easy. And when you look at Turkish GDP, adjusted to PPP, the purchasing power parity, the Turkish GDP is around $3 trillion anyway. The median the GDP per capita is over $30,000 in Turkey right now with the PPP, with the adjustments. On the nominal, it's around $10,000 and everything. So these figures would have never made sense to me. As a foreigner coming to the country for the first time, I would think that, okay, Turkey is a poor country.
When you go to a poor country where there isn't much in circulation, you know that you're in a poor country. When you come to Turkey, cities like Istanbul, Izmir, Ankara, you go down to the south coast, majority of Turkey, you very quickly realize that, hey, this is not a poor country. In fact, some of the bridges, some of the infrastructure you see in Turkey today, in Western Turkey in particular, is more advanced than what you see in Germany, what you see in the UK. So this definitely is not a poor country. But it's a country, unfortunately, whose economy is largely unrecorded. Largely. And what is the impact of that? Well, we know what the impact of that. The government cannot collect enough taxes. As a result, the municipalities are under-budgeted, under-financed, and these have drawbacks. And again, if all those things were at par with the Western economies, then I would say to you, we have reached a point where there is going to be only marginal and incremental growth in your investment in Turkey. As an investor, this is the position you want. As I always say, you want to invest in the ugly ducklings of today to get to the swans of tomorrow. If it's already a swan, it's a swan already.
So you're saying no bubble?
I don't believe there is a bubble at all in the real estate sector, and there's another hidden reason for that. Now, this is something that doesn't strike you immediately upon analysis, but once you know the stock, you realize. Now, say I lived in Southgate in London. Southgate is north of London. It is a nice residential neighborhood. Okay, if you picked any one particular street in Southgate, okay, any one particular street, and you looked at two properties, say 200 meters apart from one another, the price difference, let's say per square meter, because one could be a small property, one could be a large, so let's say price per square meter, on that particular street would be no more than 20%. And the price difference would reflect, the design, the attributes, and one of them could be a more exclusive compound, the other one could be just a standalone, a standard property. But no matter what you do, on that particular street, the price difference isn't going to be more than 20-25%. You come to Istanbul, you do the same test. You could have a two-bedroom property in a nice, new, modern, well-designed residence, which commands a price tag in central Istanbul, say $500,000. 100 meters down the road, you could have a 35-year-old old apartment block where a two-bedroom apartment will cost $200,000. One is 200, the other one is 500. 2.5 times the difference. There's no way this would happen in London in such close proximity. No way. Why? Because almost today, 60% of the stock of Istanbul is undesirable. And in the last 10 years or so, this started with the last major earthquake to affect Istanbul, which was in 1999. But in the last 10 years in particular, with a lot of government initiatives, the regeneration programs that the government is almost running, through people's throats, they're rubbing people into, they're promoting it heavily. There is a massively increased awareness in the general public in Istanbul and in all big cities in Turkey that your home should be, one, earthquake compliant, two, of a desirable look and feel. So people are now gravitating more toward desirable properties. It's no longer just a roof over their heads. They are, let's say, they're moving up Maslow's hierarchy, let's say. So they're not after just a roof over their heads. They're after a roof that also gives them comfort, that also makes them feel good, that also gives them the safety, physical safety of being earthquake compliant, that when they invite their friends and family, they can feel proud. So there is this awareness of wanting more from where they live, from their neighborhood, from their society. And that has kicked in the last 10 years. Again, is it internet that brought it? I don't know. I think it's the natural flow of life, okay? Which means all of a sudden, a massive chunk of the stock of Istanbul has become undesirable. Which means that is taken out of supply too, because nobody wants to buy them anymore.
Right.
10, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. Do you understand what I'm getting at? So the shortage of supply
you're saying
that we're talking about.
Let's say there's 100 homes in Istanbul, 60 of them are
Yes.
shabby and
Yes.
shanty and
Yes.
old.
Yes.
The other 40 is where new home buyers would like to buy, or whomever so is buying a new asset
And
would
that's
like
the
to buy.
segment where prices are going up.
Right.
The other 60%, if you notice,
Their prices are not going up as
well,
much.
they have gone up,
Yeah.
but
not
nowhere
as much.
as much
Not
as.
as much, yes.
Which
of course.
means that there is almost a massive chunk of property portfolio in Istanbul that is put in a sandbox that is not moving.
Yeah.
They are undesirable. So that leaves a very niche segment that everybody is running after, which is very narrow in supply, whose prices are naturally going up.
And faster.
And will continue going up because they can't possibly build fast enough. As people become more aware, as people become more, more aware, then more desirable, the more regulated stock, as I call it, will become. And this is, again, something that for the past 2-3 years we keep stressing, if you notice, because this is what we observe. And, we've been observing it over and over and over again. So it's not a coincidence. It's a genuine phenomena that is
new,
happening
modern,
now.
nice, centrally located.
Yeah.
That's going to be desired by a
So
lot of people.
if you look at all those, is there a bubble in Istanbul real estate? I seriously do not think so.
Are you saying Istanbul is at the very beginning of a major move towards the top?
I think Turkey is at the very beginning of a major change that is driven by multiculturalism, changing society, whether you like it or not. I love it.
Me too.
And then with it, there will come a further magnified elevation of Turkey as a place, because the more people come to this country, the more roots they have, the more circles they have. Then those more wider and wider circles of all those people now moving into this country will only start favoring and perceiving this country more and more positively.
Yes.
Because your brother lives there.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to go and visit your brother.
Yeah.
You're going to go and spend money there.
Yeah.
And once you go there, you're going to like it.
Yeah.
You're going to want a bit of that too. And then you're going to go talking to your friends. This is the effect, the ripple effect. This is the snowball effect I'm talking about. It started. And it will get bigger and bigger and bigger. It wouldn't surprise me, Alaattin, it wouldn't surprise me if it's within the next 20 years, Istanbul becomes one of the major cultural and business hubs of the world. It wouldn't surprise me.
That's what the government is trying to do with all these investments and everything, opening the country up, opening the city up, pour in a lot of money to straighten it out, with the airport, the finance center, the roads, the underground, the this, the that, and everything. Yeah. Well, interesting. I mean, All right, now I don't know
I
what to
thought you were
say.
going to corner me,
I
and then
don't
you started
know
with
what to say.
inflation, interest rates, this and that.
Well, how can I corner you when I'm already thinking the same thing? How can I corner you when I am the one who's giving you the cue to follow? So it's just a little setup of trying to corner you. I can't corner you because I live in the city. I believe in the city. I invested in the city, and I have a lot of clients of mine who have invested and who have seen the growths, and hopefully we'll be doing.
Do you know what we should do?
Yeah, I'm about to close the show though.
I tell you what we should do next. I should take you and show you my top 3 gainers, winners in the last 5 years.
That's a brilliant idea. Like, you're gonna take us to projects where
I'm going to take you to
invested
places
and made money.
where I invested and where I gained quite handsome returns. Appreciation, growth, call it whatever you like.
So we can analyze what was the reason
What
why.
were the common denominators in those? Let's do that. Like, let's literally get in the car and go and see those places.
That could be like a little
Because
crash
then
course.
I think people can truly understand why this guy here is so optimistic about this city. Despite what they may read
it's
in
your
international
city.
tabloid.
Okay, Mr. Real Estate Agent,
All
I'm
right.
sold. All right, let's go and buy those desirable
Let's do
properties ASAP. Yeah. Thank you, Cameron. It's a joy listening to you. I
right.
love it. And guys, I know a lot about Turkish real estate. It is primarily because I'm sitting on this seat being exposed to this guy for hours and hours and hours. All of the other 100-something Straight Talk episodes, we air them 20 minutes, 15 minutes, but I am exposed to that for 1 hour straight. And this episode, I'm not going to cut it because the conversation was so good and flowing. Yeah, and let it stay low.
Right.
Let it stay long.
Okay.
It's okay. If people want to listen, the ones who are interested in, they'll take their time.
Okay.
It's just 1 hour out of their Sunday, and I'm sure they can. Anyway, thank you,
All right.
Cameron.
Thanks a lot.
Guys, thank you very much for watching. With this WhatsApp number, you can reach us, and hopefully see you in the next one.